Today, we will learn about SWIFT message type MT700, which is used to issue a documentary credit. We have already discussed how SWIFT messages act as modes of communication between financial institutions and the various types of SWIFT messages. Of those, Category 7 is related to letters of credit. Of all the different Category 7 messages, what we will do in this tutorial is concentrate only on MT700, that is the issuance of an LC. Please go through my tutorials on what is a SWIFT code and SWIFT message types and letter of credit basics before you watch this tutorial. The links are in the description. We have learned the theoretical aspects of a letter of credit previously. Now, let's see practically how a real-life LC looks like. We will refer 3 resources for that. The SWIFT standards document for MT700, which has many structural and technical details of an MT700 message, but we will concentrate only to check which are mandatory and which are optional fields. The second document we will refer to is Guidance Notes for Documentary Credit Formats, issued by the International Chamber of Commerce, which basically summarizes the best practices of structuring a letter of credit. Using these 2 documents, we will analyze an actual letter of credit, understanding each field, and we will also discuss whether this letter of credit follows the best practices or not. So, let's begin. At the very beginning of the SWIFT message, you can see the header section, which basically contains the sender bank SWIFT code and the receiver bank SWIFT code. Here, the LC is getting sent by State Bank of India Overseas Branch Kolkata to State Bank of India, Dubai. The next field 27 is a mandatory field according to SWIFT standards, and it basically tells if there is a trailing MT701 message. Now, what is the meaning of this? Some LCs are so long and have so many word count that all their content cannot be accommodated in a single MT700 message. Then, a MT701 message is sent in addition to the MT700 when the information in the documentary credit exceeds the maximum input message length of the MT700. And if you ever notice in field 27 it is written 1/2, it means that this MT700 is the first of 2 total messages, and there is a MT701 message along with it. The next mandatory field is 40A, the form of documentary credit. Here it is irrevocable. What does ICC say about this field? UCP 600 no longer covers revocable credits, so irrevocable will always be relevant. Additionally, a LC can be irrevocable transferable and or standby. The next mandatory field 20 is the unique documentary credit or LC number. Now, field 31C is the date of issue field. Interestingly, this is an optional field. In case this is not mentioned in an LC, then the date of transmission of the MT700 will be taken as the date of issue of the LC. The next field, 40E, bears the applicable rules of the LC. In 99% of cases, you will find this UCP latest version, meaning UCP 600. On rare occasions, you may encounter EUCP. Field 31D is mandatory and states the date and place of expiry of the LC. It is recommended that expiry be in the country of the beneficiary. Here you can see The expiry is at the counters of the negotiating bank, which is of course in the country of the beneficiary. Next is an optional field 51D, which has details of the applicant bank. Field 50 is a mandatory field with the details of the applicant. What ICC is recommending is to avoid details like email or phone number, but you should be careful in entering the exact name and address of the applicant. The same applies for mandatory field 59, which contains the details of the beneficiary. The next mandatory field is 32B, which is the currency and amount of the credit. Care should be taken while populating this field. One extra zero wrongly typed and no one can save you once the LC is transmitted. Also, always recheck the currency, because practically the majority of the LCs that bankers issue in a day are in USD. So we tend to select USD by habit, only to notice it was a JPY or a GBP LC when it's too late. Next, you can see is 39A, percentage credit amount tolerance, which is an optional field. Here you can see it is shown as 0 by 0, meaning no tolerance on quantity of goods or amount of LC is given. So this field could have been very well omitted and it would have meant the same thing. Next is a vital mandatory field 41D, which gives the details of with which bank the LC is available and in which way it is available. You can see here it is available to any bank in UAE by payment. What can we conclude from that? That the LC is not restricted to any particular bank and it is a site LC. If in place of any bank, the name of the receiving bank, that is SBI Dubai, was written, it would have meant that the LC is restricted to SBI Dubai branch. But it is not so, and the beneficiary is free to avail negotiation from any bank he wishes. Other than by payment, an LC can be available by deferred payment and by negotiation. Deferred payment is when there will be a usance period without any requirement of a draft. And I have explained negotiation in detail in my earlier tutorials. If you have doubt, you can refer to those. ICC is recommending not to use site drafts because site LCs have hardly any payment delay and a draft may be unnecessary. But sometimes banks insist on drafts as they often feel more secure where they can negotiate with a draft as opposed to without. Field 42C is optional, which specifies the tenor of the drafts to be drawn under the LC. You can see here that it states that drafts at site, which is in tune with field 41D, which stated that the LC is available by payment. Field 42D is an optional field that states the details of the drawee of the draft. It's the LC issuing bank which is the drawee of the draft. 43P, partial shipments, is an optional field. You can see here it is allowed. Now a new option of having a conditional partial shipment is introduced. If conditional is used here, then the details of such conditions should be elaborated in field 47A, additional conditions. 43T is an optional field with transshipment details. The same conditional option may be used here too. Here is a warning by ICC that when a multimodal transport document is to be presented, the credit must not prohibit transshipment. Of course, because multimodal implies that there will be a change in transport. Next four fields are as follows. 44A, place of taking in charge or dispatch from. 44B, place of final destination.